Hello and welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Bill Hirschman, founder and chief critic of FloridaTheaterOnStage.com, and I will be your host today. But let's meet our panelists for today. Carol Cassie is owner and operator of Carol Cassie Theatrical Marketing and Public Relations. John Manzelli is an award-winning actor, director, and associate professor of theater at Barry University. Jane Kelly is the founding director of the Actors Workshop of South Florida. But our guest today is an award-winning actor who has performed on so many stages it would be impossible to list them all. But he makes his home in South Florida, and his name is Clay Cartland. Welcome, Clay.
Thank you.
And I wish you had dressed up for the occasion.
They were like, dress nice. I'm like, this is all I have.
Yeah, you know. You have the most amazing resume that I've probably read in a long time.
Oh, thanks.
You've played preening rock stars, apprentice pirates, a slug named Doug, or a Doug who becomes a slug.
Yeah.
Is there a type of role that you never get to do? That you go, gosh, I really wish someone would seriously consider me for such and such?
I actually thought about this before I came in. That's so funny. The only one is one that just is a role that just gets to sit there and listen. Because the minute I meet somebody, I'm so like, you know, look at my suit. I like to, but that's who I like to be. I'm a very bombastic person, and I like to put out that energy, like a lot of energy all at one time. But I would very much like to try something where I just sit there and like listen very actively.
Do you want to do something straight like Long Day's Journey into Night?
Eventually I would, yeah, just because I think no one would be expecting it.
Yeah.
Just like, wow, he did that.
I am fascinated, and you're so ubiquitous, or whatever that word is, that a lot of people are familiar having seen your work because you work pretty steadily. You have a style that seems to come out in many of the pieces that you do. Is that a conscious thing that you do, that techniques that you are bringing to it, or do you think that you're very malleable as far as that goes?
I would like to say I'm malleable as far as that goes, but I'm sure I'm sure I bring a lot of myself, whether I mean to or not, just because I know me really well.
I mean, when you do a lot of physical comedy, you do a lot of very well-honed comic tropes. When you go into a show, do you and the director have to talk about how much of that you're going to put in? Or do they just let you put that in, or can they have any choice whether you put that in?
It normally comes up. A lot of people tell me to like pull back, which is really good. And I like to add more than I need, because you can always take away.
Could you talk a little bit about your training or your process, or how do you approach a role?
Well, gosh, I love how that's hard. I'm like,
Right.
Finally slowed him down.
a lot of it, I like to be very familiar, obviously. I mean, you know, you like to go in and you know like where you are, who these other people are, where you came from, where you're going. But I don't like to decide anything before I meet everybody else, just because so much gets, I find for me what works for me, and it doesn't work for everybody else, but what really works for me is finding out what other people are bringing and what the energy of the room is, and then I can either add to that or play off of that. And I find that really works, and that really works for finding a lot of things, like physical things too.
Well, you taught improv, I heard.
I did.
Is that
yes,
correct?
Yeah.
Do you find that is a useful skill for you in your work?
Oh yeah, so much. I think I tell everybody to take improv training, but just like not even, because in rehearsals it helps so much because like nothing is wrong. You can do whatever you want to, and then like it's like throwing wet spaghetti on a wall. Like whatever sticks, like that's in the show now because it worked that one time.
Right.
But also like even in auditions, like you start auditioning when you say hi to everybody, and I know it's hard for me to talk as me instead of like as a character. So taking things like improv training really helps, like to be in the moment with somebody, to just respond to somebody, to not need a character to hide behind to talk to somebody.
Where did you get your initial training? When did the bug hit? When did you really want to do this?
It was well, the first show I did was in 8th grade because the director lost two guys because of sports. And I didn't have that problem. So that was the first show I ever did, and people were like, you're really good at this, you should keep doing this. I'm like, okay. So then I got to college, and I was like, what do you want to major in? Or I didn't say that, they did. Like, what do you want to major in? I was like, I did theater a lot. They're like, yeah, okay, do that. And I kept thinking, I actually tried to double major for like a half a semester, but I was like, that's hard. So I did not do that. And then I just kept doing it. And it was the only thing that I liked doing enough to keep doing. And I went to school, or trained at, I went to St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas.
Do you know, I'd love you to touch on, you just said it, and actors say it all the time, and I was thinking about this recently, watching something Meryl Streep did. What does that actor do to hold on when you're up against Meryl Streep? And it is be in the moment. You just said be in the moment. Can you explain what that is for you?
Well, we're in the moment right now. It's listening. It's just listening, which is hard for me sometimes too. It's not coming in like, I've met people that like have like a preconceived notion of like, this is what I want to do and I'm going to do this whether you like it or not. But and that's totally cool. Like, you bring so much to the table and then we can whittle away as we go. But for me, it just really helps because you don't know who the other person is. And to hear, you know, maybe they have a different tone than you thought they would, or maybe they have just a different energy than you would. And if they have a different energy, you have to like kind of be there with them and adjust. Yeah.
But how do you be in the moment when you're on the 8th or 9th show, or if you're in a really long run, and there are technical things that you know you're doing because you can hear it works on the audience? How do you stay in the moment when this is your 9th or 10th performance or 25th performance of a particular role?
Well, muscle memory does kick in, but it's hard. It's hard to explain because I just do it. Like, it's weird, but I feel like it's the difference between making coffee in the morning and like grinding your own beans, if that makes sense. Like, everyone knows how to make coffee. You just put the coffee in the filter, you put the filter in there, the water's done. But like, to grind your own beans, you have to measure it. You have to make sure you're not like cutting yourself in the grinder. You have to make sure the grinder, like the course is right. So you have to really pay attention to what you're doing. Certain moments do work, so you keep those because they work. But you still have to be conscious of what you're doing while you're doing it. You can't just like tune it in, I guess. Phone it in.
Do you find that things sometimes change in the 12th of the 25th performance?
Oh yeah, things grow.
Yeah.
Actually, it was one of the first shows I did. It was with Michael Leeds, and I remember I still to this day think I'm horrible. Just for the record, I want everyone to know that. I think I'm horrible. But by the end of that, and it was like one of my first big roles out of the gate. He had so much faith in me, and I was like 23 years old. I didn't know what I was doing. And at the end of it, I wrote him a long email, just saying, oh, thank you so much for this opportunity. It was great, and I never thought I could do it, but you guided me like the Svengali that you are. And he said, like, you did what I really like actors to do, and you kept growing. I was like, oh, okay. So growth is okay because in college I didn't. I froze a performance. I'm like, this is it. And everyone used to always say, if I lose a line, I just look at Clay because he does the same thing every day. And I remember I just like, oh, I don't like that. But so now I do like to think that by like the 25th or the 30th performance, it's the same. You're still going after the same things, but there is a growth to it because you just know so much more about whoever you're playing.
So going back over these many, many performances that we've seen you in, are there any that you would like to do over?
I still hang out with Shane Tanner once a week at least, and he's always like, man, we got to do Trouble with Doug again, man.
Right.
Everywhere I go, I'm like, hey, Joe Adler, we can do Trouble with Doug in this place. Come on, man. Okay, I'll call Patty Garner right now. We'll get her over here.
You should explain. Trouble with Doug is the show that you did at Arts Garage,
Yes. Right.
in which you were a young man who turned into a slug over the process of the show.
Yes.
And a really good show.
Thank you.
And it worked.
weren't bad.
It really worked.
You made a good slug.
You were delightfully mediocre. But just all 5 of us, too. It was me, Barry Turallo, Patty Gardner, Alex Page, Loomis now, and Shane Tanner. And we just all, from the get, we were like, this is going to be so special. And it was just the 5 of us for like X amount of hours for however long it took to, I think it was like 3 weeks.
Who was your director?
Margaret Ledford was.
okay.
And it was an original work, right?
It was, yeah. And the writers were in the room with us, Daniel Mattei and Will Aronson, and it was just it was such a good energy from the beginning. And it was very special for all of us. We just really felt like a family, and we've been wanting to do it. We would all do it again, like today, if somebody asked us to.
As a working actor, I wanted to ask you, it's usual to also work in other mediums, film, television. Can you articulate your passion for theater? I know everyone in this room has this passion. It's insatiable. Can you explain what it is for you?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, not yeah. Yes.
You could say yeah.
Okay.
This is very informal.
Yeah. Yo. It's I can equate it to when I did stand-up comedy for like a year, and it's the same reason why I liked improv training, because it's like boxing, because every audience is different. With film, it's like you put it out there, you do a take, and it's cemented, and it's good, and people watch it over and over and over again, and get something different every time. But when you're in front of actual people, I mean, John can probably attest to this. You get like an active audience, and they're into it with you, and you're like, oh, it's the best, and you're giving it like you're giving 110. You're pulling out things you didn't think you had, and then there are some days where people are just listening very quietly and politely, and you're like, this is nice. This is a good show. I'm enjoying this. But man, yesterday they were like laughing and throwing babies at us. It's rowdy. So I think that's why that's where that passion comes
It's
from.
the live, isn't it? You
It's
can't
just seeing
explain it.
people, yeah.
Yes, the connection.
What about voice work? I know you do some voice work, and do you, what kind of? It's obviously very different from a live audience, but
Yeah, voiceover work is so much fun. I wish I could do more of it. Just because whenever I get to do like a cartoon, like I grew up watching cartoons, and when I say grew up, I mean I still do. And it's just so fun to be able to see, because I'll say that's probably like what film is, because you'll do a take and you're like, oh, my voice cracked, or why did I say it like that? That sounded awful. And then you'll rewatch it when it's mixed, and it's so good, and you're like, oh, that's me. Like we just had one of the studios I work at down in Doral. Just put out a show. It's called Mecha Ude, which is it's a Japanese cartoon about these people with these mechanical arms just growing out of them, and and they talk, and they talk because mechanical arms, and they were like, hey, can you read like 4 lines and be like a bad guy or something? And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't want to hear any more of your excuses. I'm like, that's stupid. Why did I say that? And then I saw it because they put out the first episode the other day on the YouTubes, and watched the whole thing, and I was like, this is so good. That's me doing that. That's a really cool feeling.
I'd like to ask you a question about that sort of thing. So you're a brave actor. You've won awards. You're one of the best actors in this town, and I'll say it for you. Okay? I know you're humble about that, but I'll say it for you. All right.
Thank you. John Manzelli said that.
Yeah, I said it. I said it. But there are. Have you ever had a role that you were surprised how well it went off? You know what I mean? We've all had those shows where the day before we think, this is it, I'm done, my career's over, this is going to stink, it didn't work out.
Oh man, I think personally every role. I know exactly what it was. It was when I did when the Broward Stage Door did Jeffrey at the Byron Carlisle, which like 12 people saw, but that was the first time I'd ever, and that was another time that I just had to like sit there and listen. I didn't have an eye patch. I didn't have a squirrel. I wasn't interesting at all. I was just like some guy who I was playing a gay gentleman who really like loved having sex, but it took place in 1993, and everyone was afraid to, because like that was when like the HIV virus was really prevalent, and people were like, oh my gosh, like they didn't know what to do. So he just goes cold turkey and like stops. And I remember thinking, how do I equate to this? I'm 25 years old. I'm not like, I don't know, I haven't had like a lot of experience. I don't feel like, I just felt very grossly unprepared, and I just felt not worthy to tell a story like that. And then once people saw it, they were like, a lot of people, the reaction was just really good. And I remember just being so shocked by that, and just so happy that so happy that I just didn't fumble the ball on that.
Did it make you re-look into the character now as you were doing it, realizing you were getting a response that previously you maybe didn't expect?
You mean like after we opened, look back
yes,
into it?
Getting a response.
Yeah. And then, but you feel the freedom of like, okay, people do get this. I don't have to self-censor. I don't have to worry about what I'm saying.
Great.
The story tells itself, which took me about 10 years to learn. Like, I don't have to put anything on it. I don't have to put ketchup on the hot dog. The hot dog's already good.
When you do Toxic Avenger, where you've got a mask where your face is melting,
Yeah.
or when you turn into a slug.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, one of the things that come out of those roles is the audience feels something for you. There's some kind of compassion, even though it's a very broadly written kind of thing. Do you have any idea how you manage to make the audiences see these characters beyond the humor, beyond the broadness, beyond the cartoonish?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Because you do.
And
I
I'm
mean,
going to
it
be real,
works.
I do not know. But Trouble with Doug was another show. I'm like, are people, like, this is a special show for us, but are people going to, like, feel empathy for that? Because by the end of the show, I was just like, I had no, and Margaret was very adamant. She was like, don't have any emotion really. Just be there and just be very happy. And I'm like, just be very happy that I'm here, but I'm on my knees and I'm covered in a raincoat. But people were really like, oh, there he is, and he's so happy. And so I don't know. I mean, I guess the only thing I can maybe say is that I just put a lot of energy into something. So maybe that and I try to identify with it too, with whoever I'm playing, whether it be a monster or whether it be an animal.
Are you an actor who can come straight off stage and disconnect, or does it take you a long period of time? What's your process as you come off stage?
It would depend on the show.
Yeah.
And it would depend on the day of the show. Like if it's closing day of the show, then don't talk to me. Actually, there was one show where I could not, because every now and again you just have bad days. Everyone's got like.
There's also an audience wants to come talk to you. Where's your head at that point?
Yeah, I'm just tired, to be honest. Like after Toxic Avenger, people would want to talk to me, and I remember there was one, because it's a latex suit, like it's not breathing, and I would sweat something awful underneath it, and somebody in the audience was like, I don't know how you got like the goo to come out of him. How did you do that? And they were like, he's sweating. He's sweating under that suit. It's off. And they'd be like, oh, that was a wonderful show.
Amazing.
Congratulations. And I'm just like, thanks. Thanks, man. I'm really, yeah.
At least you could handle Batman now, the
I
suit.
would love to handle Batman, Robert Pattinson. If anything happens to Robert Pattinson, I'm definitely going to take over Batman.
You're involved with another actor, Leah Sessa.
Yes.
In the last year or so, you guys seem to be going from job to job to job. In a personal sense, how do two actors who are spending that much time together, but on the other hand are usually rarely working in the same production, how do you guys balance that? The real life aspect of trying to keep a normal life when you have both partners working so hard.
Man, normal is a word. That is a word.
Funny
And
word.
it's funny too, because she works so hard. Because she takes so much home. She does so much homework. She goes in so prepared for everything. And then on her days off, she tends bar, because we all have to have other jobs. And I'll be working too, and then I'll be driving in my Uber from 11 to 2 a.m. every day. So we don't see each other a lot. But this past season, we were very lucky that we got to do, I think, 3 shows back to back, which was nice because we're just in the same building. We can be there for each other. Like if one of us is having a rough time with something, or we're just not getting something. But we also give each other a lot of space because our processes are so different. Whereas I'm very like, let's figure it out together. And she's very much like, hold on, I have to really focus on what I'm going to do, and I have to really like center. Like she centers and goes in and like tries new things. She has something she wants to try, and she's like, I'm not focusing on that because I don't want to go out there and trip and fall all over myself. Because while she is very beautiful, she's also very clumsy. So, true facts.
So let me ask you a question that I'm sure there's an audience member out there asking, right?
Okay.
If he's so great, why doesn't he go to New York? Why does he stay here in South Florida?
I thought about going to New York 3 years ago.
Okay.
I really did. And whoa, we're gonna, woo! Then my father passed.
Okay.
And so 3 years ago he passed, and my mom, I couldn't leave my mom, because we're all the family she has. And me and my sister and my mom, that's it, we have. That's it we have. So I stayed down for her, and then just things kept happening. And about 2 years ago, I didn't know what I wanted to do, whether it be stay, go, and I thought I'm just gonna put as much good energy and like positivity as I can, and whatever happens, I'm gonna do that. So things just kept happening down here, like one after the other. I was so blessed, still am so blessed. And that kept me here. And like, so for now, for instance, I'm in Orlando because I went up there randomly to go to a callback for something, and they're like, yeah, come and do this show. And then I think the show I'm working on now closes on the 9th, and then the next one starts rehearsals on like the 7th. So just the overlap is real, and it's just, I'm a big believer in the universe telling you to do something, and I'm just trying to go with that as best I can. Now that said, in August, I am gonna go to New York, if nothing else comes up, at least for like, a couple of months and just see, because I'm not getting any younger, let's be real, and I do want to go and just see what happens up there, but this is home.
Playing into that, though, I'd wonder the same thing because you originated in Atlanta, and there's a very thriving industry there, film, television.
Yeah.
So I would take it that your answer to New York is similar to that, but are you one of the actors down here who's submitting to Atlanta as well?
That's on the docket for sure. I haven't yet. Because again, I'm one of those people that I get so distracted, like I can only concentrate on, like, I can't multitask. So, I really can't. But that's definitely something that's on the docket, because there is so much work to be had just in in the tri-state area alone. Like there's so many things to do.
It's wonderful that you feel so strongly about that and you
really
put
do.
that out about the work. It's very true.
You have to drive a lot to find it. Yes. You have to really go out there and get it. But you can, 100% you can go find it.
What brought you to Florida?
It was my stepfather who passed away. He remarried him and my mom met in 1992 when I was still in Atlanta, and then we moved down in 1998 to be like a family.
We're very lucky you did.
Oh, me too.
Yes.
I could not picture being anywhere else, to be honest.
This is a weird question, because that's all I ever ask. But I was thinking of you when you were in Legally Blonde recently, where you played the handsome UPS man, shall we say?
signal.
I was thinking of you lifting things.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've noticed, and my wife and I notice when we see you in a show, is you are very often in the ensemble, in the chorus, and you're singing and you're dancing and you're working. You fit right in, although because we've seen you, we go, oh, there's Clay.
There he is. Yeah.
There's a couple of others like that. Does that take a completely different way of thinking? Are you trying to fit in?
Yep.
As opposed to Cassie in the chorus line where they said, you don't seem to fit in?
Yeah. And I didn't get that show at all until I did a show at Theater Zone where I did 9 to 5 at Theater Zone, and I was in the ensemble. I had like one feature like in the beginning, but then for the rest of it, it was just all group numbers, and they kept putting me in the back because I'm 6'1". And it was a very cathartic experience of like, don't steal focus. Like, this is not your time. Just blend. And even like vocally, you have to blending in a chorus and singing a solo is a very, very different thing. Just in terms of like, what vowel is everyone singing? So we're all singing it the same way. What's their mouth doing? So I don't just sound different. It's a very unique skill set. I think it was Ken Clement that would always tell me, he's like, man, I wish I was talented enough to be in an ensemble. I'll tell you, because it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
I always say to my students, you're no more important than the person hanging your lights.
Oh, no.
And so...
Especially the person hanging the lights.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's be real.
Exactly.
That's really
You want to stay friends
true.
with them.
Yes.
But in reference to Bill's question, as you've gained so much notoriety in this business, your Carbonells, do you feel, if you are put in a position to ensemble anymore, a sense of responsibility to make sure everyone else is comfortable and doesn't feel intimidated by the fact you come in with really stature from your experience?
Well, I'll be 100% honest. I won my Carbonell in 2015. And if I'm being completely honest, because I'm not above it, I was such a jerk for like 6 months after, and I'll totally own that. I walked into like auditions like, I'm done, you're welcome, I'm here, and I was so unfulfilled, and I just felt awful about things that I was doing. Like nothing was good enough, everything had to be perfect, and if it wasn't, I was having a miserable time, and when you're having a miserable time, other people are having a miserable time around you, so now, definitely now, first order business, I feel, is to just like be very comfortable with each other. We are all in this together, honestly.
Yes.
Everyone is.
Yes.
And it's really important to not forget that, because the minute there's like one weak link in the chain, the whole thing's just going to come apart.
Well said.
You mentioned earlier watching cartoons growing up.
Yeah.
And last week. Yeah. And I always wonder when I watch some of the work that you do, whether there are people you are emulating, people that either you grew up or even now you go, yeah, I'm going to steal that. That's a great piece.
Yeah, people say Jim Carrey a lot, which I'm so blessed that that's who, because he's a genius. And if no one's seen Jim and Andy on Netflix, go and watch that, because it's brilliant. Plug. But so I grew up watching a lot of him, a lot of Robin Williams, and like honestly, like it's stupid, but like Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes is genius. Tom and Jerry is genius, and people don't get that because it's a cartoon, and people, you know, like when you hear cartoon, it's like, no, it's a cartoon. No. But the humor is so smart, and it wasn't made for kids back then. Not like now. Now it's like the people I'm staying with up in Orlando, they have 2 young kids, and they're watching like Paw Patrol and Teen Titans Go, and I'm watching it too. I'll be real. But I'm just like, oh, these are not what I grew up with. Like Daffy Duck was having like really cathartic moments in the cartoons I grew up with. So a lot of that. And now, like I feel like every show I end up doing, I do steal something. I'll steal some stuff. I'll be real. I'll steal some stuff. Like there was one show, when I was doing I Love You're Perfect Now Change, I had to say the name Susan. And one day at rehearsal, I went, Susan! And everyone was like, what are you doing? This kid's an idiot. And they're like, why are you saying it like that? And I'm like, it's from Monsters vs. Aliens. You don't know? But of course.
Sure.
But of course, the hit Monsters vs. Aliens.
And with that confession,
That's what I confessed.
that's how we'll close. Before we end this episode, I would like to thank our panelists who joined us today, and I would especially like to thank Clay for sharing his life and his secrets with us. Not all the secrets. Spotlight on the Arts is a community program, so if you have any suggestions, we would love to hear them. You can mail us at spotlightonthearts@browardschools.com, and please check our favorite websites to see what's going on all over South Florida. Those websites are floridatheateronstage.com and carolcassie.com. Thanks for watching. Make sure you tune in next week. And as our founder, Iris Acker, always said, make sure you go to the theater.